do you have any recommendations how these service provider customers can meet this inventory control challenge? Any recommendations for them? I'm sure they will be challenged to do so. And then, sort of a part B, like an either or, if you wish to address that, or anybody on our panel who cares to share what it's like for you as a supplier of BABA compliant products in terms of your own inventory control, your own supply chain, your own procurement. I'm sure that our audience would benefit from, hearing about the systems that you have in place. And then again, any recommendations for your customers for how they can do their inventory control, I think would be a worthwhile piece of information to put across. So if I can start with Brianna, thanks for bearing with me through that long question. If you wouldn't mind addressing any part of it, I'm sure any information you have would be helpful.
Yeah, well, going back to a comment I made, some of the requests that we've seen, it may at times be easier to just have a blanket, is this compliant? Certainly, we have some products that we can easily say across the board, regardless of who the customer is, that is compliant. But we are finding, we're having to make supply chain decisions and potentially create new designs that have, different components from domestic suppliers versus components for other customers and markets where we have what I'll call a little more flexibility. So we're having some very interesting discussions with our engineering teams. They don't like the idea of having to create separate part numbers. Again, we could lock things down and say we're only going to offer to all of our customers the same design, the same supply chain options. But in some cases, we want to continue to have the option to have a BABA compliant design as opposed to it's not needed for BABA. So we're kind of wrestling through what the implications are within our engineering groups and having to track multiple part numbers. Potentially that might imply multiple drawings. So from an engineering perspective, it's a big ask for them. And also within our supply chain, having multiple suppliers versus having only single sourced. That's difficult for supply chain. That could be risky potentially if you only have one domestic supplier. Sometimes that's seen as a risk that you only have a single source. So we've been bringing in a task force that has representation from our supply chain, from engineering, from our product line managers, sales, so that we're having the conversation for everybody. Everyone's on the same page. And that we don't make decisions in a silo.